Prime Minister, I suppose you're quite glad about what's happened in Afghanistan. I mean, it suits Pakistan very nicely, doesn't it?
John, I'm glad because we were anticipating the sort of bloodbath that took place after the Soviets withdrew from Afghanistan in 1989. Almost 200,000 Afghans died in that 5-6 year period. So we were petrified here that when the US left, there would be a bloodbath, a similar bloodbath. And for Pakistan, there were consequences. Most of all, refugees. We already have 3 million refugees, and we have no capacity to take any more. And secondly, if there was a protracted civil war in Afghanistan, which is also what we feared, because we never thought Taliban would just take over Afghanistan. We thought they would immediately take over the Pashtun areas, but there would be, we thought, a civil war. So that too would have had implications for Pakistan. So from that point of view, no bloodshed, relatively, it has been a peaceful takeover. So up till now, yes. But what happens from now onwards is a lot of concern to us.
But the Taliban are really a Pakistani creation, aren't they?
Absolutely not. Taliban were creation of the environment after the Soviets left. The warlords started fighting each other. And in that chaos emerged Taliban. And why did Taliban emerge? Because they gave people a semblance of rule of law, which did not exist before. Previously, this is before Taliban took over, every 50 miles there was a checkpoint. There was a warlord who would then take money. And so it was a fractured Afghanistan after the Soviets left. So Taliban gave people a semblance of rule of law. And that's why they prevailed in Afghanistan. And so...
Sorry, excuse me, though. You were saying there wasn't the rule of law in Afghanistan for the last 20 years when people's lives were lifted up beyond anything they'd ever experienced?
No, John, I'm talking about when Taliban took over in 96. I'm talking about that period, when from 96 to 2001, so they were not a creation of Pakistan. Pakistan actually was backing Gulbuddin Hekmatyar. He was the faction Pakistan was backing against Ahmad Shah Massoud.
Another extremist, another Islamic extremist.
Well, all the Mujahideen were religious, fighting in the name of religion. They were doing jihad. So they were all Mujahideen. They weren't secular people who were sort of fighting the Soviets. But all I'm saying is that when we backed one faction, in my opinion, we made a huge mistake. Because we should not have interfered. We should have just, whatever government the Afghans wanted, we should have backed them. So when you back one faction, the other turns against you. So in my opinion, it was a mistake. Pakistan made a mistake. But Taliban came out of nowhere at that time. I'm talking about 96.